You are listening to A Path to a New You, a podcast about mental health and veterans issues. I am your host, Timothy Zarumsky. I am a therapist and a mental health advocate for veterans and the community. Today's episode, I want to talk about mindfulness. Some of you listening to this may know what mindfulness is, may have an idea. Some of you may not. So, this episode, I'm hoping, will educate you on what mindfulness is. Hopefully, by the end of this episode, you'll know of what mindfulness is and how you can use it. So, in today's episode, I'm going to talk about what is mindfulness, some pros and cons of it, how to use it, and kind of like where to begin at. Since if you've never done it, hopefully this episode will teach you a little bit on how to. I guess I should say how to do it. So, mindfulness. What exactly is mindfulness? Mindfulness is a type of meditation in which you focus on being intensely aware of what you're sensing and feeling in the moment without interpretation or judgment. Practicing mindfulness involves breathing methods, guided imagery, and other practices to relax the body and mind and help reduce stress. What are some of the benefits of meditation? Meditation has been studied in many clinical trials. The overall evidence supports the effectiveness of meditation for various conditions, including stress, anxiety, pain, depression, insomnia. For those who don't know what insomnia is, it's the difficulty of falling asleep or staying asleep, and high blood pressure. Meditation can help you experience thoughts and emotions with greater balance and acceptance. Meditation also has been shown to improve attention, decrease job burnout, improve your sleep, and improve your diabetes control. Now, there are several different types of mindfulness exercises. I'm just going to go through a couple of them, like a list of them, kind of explain what they are. But there are a ton of them out there. All you have to do is use Google and type in mindfulness exercises, and I bet a ton of exercises will come up. So Google is also my friend. I tend to Google a lot of things when I have questions about something. So here's some of the mindfulness exercises. Paying attention, and it's hard to slow down and notice things in a busy world. When you're busy, it's always hard to slow down because you always want to keep moving. You have stuff to do. You always want to keep moving. So try to take the time to experience your environment with all of your senses: the touch, sound, sight, smell, and taste. An example would be when you're like eating your favorite food for dinner or whatever. Mine's spaghetti or Italian food. You want to take the time to like taste it. Don't rush, just taste it and smell it and enjoy it. I guess a good example of mine would be when I was in the military. I when we ate pretty quickly. Like we had to eat and then we were out because we had so much things to do. But now I like taking my time to like sense it, just enjoy the taste of the food. Living in the moment is another one. What does that mean? Just it means intentionally bring an open acceptance and disconcerting attention to everything you do. Find joy to simple pleasures. So sitting, for example, I'm sitting here. I'm in my spare bedroom and I'm looking outside. I see snow on the ground and I have a fan going, so I hear the fan. and I'm just looking around. My wall is like a purplish color. I see my Peloton treadmill to the right, and I see my laptop in front of me. And you're just sitting here, just enjoying the moment, living in the moment. It's quiet. Also, accepting yourself. Treat yourself the way you would treat a good friend. Focus on your breathing. There's so many breathing exercises that definitely help with this. When you have negative thoughts, try to sit down, take a deep breath, and close your eyes. Focus on your breath as it moves in and out of your body. Sitting and breathing for even just a minute can help. Now, when I'm saying breathing in and out, I'm not saying like when you're like breathing in and out like in a hurry. You want to like breathe in, take about 3 to 4 seconds to breathe in there, hold it for about, I don't know, 5 to 10 seconds, and then breathe it out slowly. Just count down to like 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So something like that where you're just breathing in, breathe in for about 5 seconds, hold it in, and then breathing the air out that you breathe in slowly. I do like a 10-second countdown, 10-second thing or 5 second with the people I see at my private practice. Some of you may ask yourself, when should I practice mindfulness? When is a good time to practice mindfulness? Well, you know what? There's not really an answer to it. It also just depends on what kind of mindfulness exercises you plan on doing. Simple mindfulness exercise can be practiced anywhere and anytime. Research indicates that engaging your senses outdoors is especially beneficial. So, again, depending on the mindfulness exercise you want to do, just any time of the day, anywhere, you can pretty much do it. As long as it's like a quiet area, I wouldn't really try to practice mindfulness if you're like in an airport or anything like a noisy place, because then it may not work. But pretty much anywhere where it's quiet, and then pretty much any time of the day, any time at night would definitely work. I do my mindfulness exercises in the morning for the most part, right after a workout or like in the middle of the day. I'll do like a meditation, and there's a few apps out there that definitely have like meditations you can use that help. I just use the Peloton app. Peloton's got all kinds of stuff on there, and meditation's one of them. Again, I want to say mindfulness requires time, patience, and discipline, all of which can be very difficult to find, especially if you're a beginner at it. But again, like I mentioned earlier, there are several different ways to practice mindfulness. You can do it so many different ways. I'm just going to talk about a few more of them I just found. If you don't know where to start, it's okay. If you're a beginner, that's okay. It takes practice. Like I mentioned earlier, the mindfulness, it reduces your stress. That's a big one. Stress is, especially nowadays, there's a lot of stress in this world. Like, I can't name one person who's not been stressed or been stressed out. There's always stress. So, mindfulness is great for that. It also helps, like I said earlier, it helps prevent burnout. It helps you stop ruminating. Some of you may have never heard that term before, ruminating. So, I'm going to talk a little bit about rumination. So, what exactly is ruminating? So, rumination or or ruminating involves repetitive thinking or dwelling on negative feelings and distress and their causes and consequences. The repetitive negative aspect of rumination can contribute to the development of depression or anxiety and can actually make the existing conditions worse. I will definitely talk more about rumination and how to prevent that in another episode. But I just want to let you guys know what exactly rumination is if you've never heard that term. To be honest, I didn't know what ruminating was until probably about 3 years ago when I worked at Rogers Behavioral Health. They always talked about ruminating. I'm like, what is that? And then, of course, they've told me what it is. I'm like, oh, that makes sense. So even a couple years ago, I didn't know what rumination was. And to be honest, I've been in the field for over 15 years. I've never heard that term until about 2 years ago. So yeah, again, mindfulness helps you focus. When your mind wanders, distractions like social media, mindfulness can help you control your attention. It helps fighting negative emotions and self-talk. And actually, it helps direct you toward your goals. Again, it's being in the moment. So it definitely helps help. It definitely helps direct you toward your goals. That's what I should have said. There's different types of techniques for mindfulness. There's a sitting meditation. I think I did mention this earlier. Where you sit down upright, pay attention to your breathing, and try settling your mind. Sitting down. There's meditation apps for that. So I tend to do a lot of the meditations. There's like 10, there's 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 minute meditations out there. So again, you can do it anytime, anywhere, as long as it's quiet. And it can only take, to be honest, I've done 5 minute meditations and it definitely worked for me. Body scanning, pay attention to how your body feels. Focus on physical sensations like the tingle in your toes. Maybe that you have some pain in your back you've noticed, or if you're outside, notice like the wind if it's windy out. You notice the wind against your skin. This will help connect you to your body and ground you in the present. Another mindfulness technique is journaling. Some of you may have journaled before, some of you may have not. So that definitely helps too. I've actually talked to my clients about journaling and it's actually helped them out quite a bit. So yeah, when you think of stuff, or at the end of the day or beginning of the day, when you write your thoughts on a page, you can re-examine them later on. This can help you identify thought patterns and behaviors that are working against you. Journaling helps a lot. Guided meditations, like I mentioned this earlier, many apps, videos, podcasts can guide you through a meditation session. Mindful eating, I did mention about that, just sitting down and being aware of what's in front of you, being aware of the taste of your food, the smell of your food. You always want to remember to be kind to yourself too, especially when you're doing these mindfulness exercises like meditations. Mindfulness meditations can reveal some uncomfortable truths, especially when you're in the moment and your mind's racing and whatnot. As long as you calm down, you can notice some uncomfortable feelings there. So yeah, it's so if you haven't done like mindfulness meditations before, and all of a sudden you're feeling like you're like angry or you just got those thoughts, Just remember to be kind to yourself. It happens to everybody, even myself. It happens. Remember to treat yourself like you would, like a relative or a friend. Just be kind to yourself. Just also, always remember that you're more than your mistakes and your flaws don't define you. You can also practice mindfulness at work. Well, you ask yourself, how can you do that? Because you're always busy. You're either running around doing different stuff that you need to do that your boss is telling you to do. So here are first a few things you can do to practice mindfulness at work. You might have a list of things to do that your boss gave you. Work on one task at a time. Devote your full attention to a single task will help you stay focused. Also notice when you're rushing. I noticed that a lot too when I was working at different places. I was always rushing. You notice that. That's when mistakes happen the most when you're going too fast. Be humble. Acknowledge your weaknesses and look for what others can teach you. Focus on what you can control. And there's a lot of stuff that happens at work where there's stuff you cannot control. Don't worry about those. Only worry about what you can control. They'll definitely be less stressful there too. Improve your listening skills. Pay attention when people are talking. Try to stay in the present and hear the meaning behind their words when they're talking to you. So, what are some pros and what are some cons of mindfulness? Some of the pros of being mindful, you can actually enjoy what you are doing. Your relationships are enriched. You can enjoy better connections and fewer misunderstandings with others because you actively listen rather than allow your mind to wander elsewhere. You may build a greater focus, attention, and a capacity to stay calm under pressure. You may feel more confident, more in control, and have greater participation in all areas of life. You may be able to tap into gratitude, acceptance, and less judgment of the who, what, where, when, and whys of life. You may experience greater self and social awareness, two mental assets that help significantly in regulating mood and emotions. What are what are some cons? No, there's some good, there's some bads of being mindful. The con is it takes work. Just like everything else that you do, especially if you're a beginner at it, it takes work. It takes practice and personal effort. It's just another thing you should do. Sometimes being more aware can actually increase personal frustration or judgment. It doesn't always help and it won't make problems go away. So, yeah, being mindful, the cons of being mindful, it takes work, especially if you've never done it before. It takes work. Just like everything else in the world, it takes work. It also takes practice and it takes personal effort. Your first time doing a 5-minute meditation, or like if you journal for a few days and you're frustrated because everything you're doing is not working, that's okay. Again, it takes practice and it's going to take time. Like everything else I tell my clients or tell people, everything takes time, it takes practice. Eventually, it'll start working. And eventually, once it starts working and you do it on a daily, you'll enjoy it and you'll notice that things are improving. That's another thing, too. If you are a beginner and you just started doing like mindfulness or journaling and you only do it like you do it one time and then you wait like a few days and you do it again, That may not work. I tell my clients or the people I see that this journaling, you need to do it every day. And once you start doing every day, it becomes a routine. Like I mentioned earlier, there are a lot of different mindfulness activities that are out there. All you have to do is Google mindfulness activities or mindfulness, and a lot of information will come up. There are apps out there to help with mindfulness activities as well. I know there's a few of them out there. Some of them may cost money, some of them may be free. Some of them may have like a trial, like a 3-day trial, and then they'll cost something per month or per week. I know YouTube has a few um, meditations on there that are free. Yoga is another mindfulness activity that I do because you're pretty much in the moment during that time. Um, Again, I hope you learned something today. If you knew this already, that's great. If you didn't know this and you learned something today, that's great as well. Again, this podcast is called The Path to New You. I do have a Facebook page for this podcast. It's called The Path to New You. I will put the link to my Facebook page into the about episode area. I believe when you go in, you click on about, see what the episode's about. There'll be a link there. Click on that link. It should take you to my private, my my Facebook, The Path to New You. There, I do post the link to my podcast. I also, on occasion, will post stuff about self care, information concerning mental health or veterans issues. I also have a Facebook for my private practice. I'll post that link on there as well. And in my private practice Facebook page, I do post a lot of stuff about self care as well, mental health related issues, as well as veteran related issues. I do post stuff about self care on there as well. You don't know what self care is. I'll talk about that in a different episode. You can find my podcast on a few different platforms. Spotify is one of them. Audible, which is owned by Amazon. Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, even though I heard or Google sent me an email stating Google Podcasts will no longer exist at the end of this year. So it looks like I'll be posting this maybe on YouTube somewhere. So yeah, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts for now, Audible, and Amazon Music. I believe those are all the platforms right now that's available. And it's free to listen to as well. I try to do an episode a week. I didn't do one last week because it was Thanksgiving week and I took time off for it. And like I mentioned, every week's a different topic. And I'm hoping to get more guests on this show as well. I do have a few guests coming up. And if you know anybody or you yourself would like to be a guest on my podcast, you can reach out to me at my Facebook page, A Path to New You, via Messenger. There's Messenger on there. Or you can contact me through my private practice Facebook page as well. And until next week, I hope you all have a great rest of the day. I hope you did learn something today about mindfulness. If you have questions or anything, please reach out to me and I'll definitely help you out. If you could follow my podcast and rate this episode and comment on this episode, a review, that'd be great. Let me know what I can do differently or what you'd like me to do because I'd like to improve this podcast anyway, anyhow I can. Anyway, again, you were listening to A Path to New You. Until next week, have a good rest of the day and be well and be safe.